The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle franchise has been putting out movies for over 30 years, and everyone has their own story of when they came into the franchise. For me, it all started when I was 6 years old. The year was 1991, and the TMNT was my life. I had the video games, VHSs, action figures, t-shirts, socks, lunchboxes, blankets, tents, stickers, and cups. You name it, and I probably had it. Now, I was a year late of being able to enjoy the movie when it actually came out in theaters, but I was right on time for the VHS release of the film, which came out late 1990. And I was also right on time to see the second movie in the theaters. Of course, these nostalgic experiences affect your feelings on a film, usually in a positive way, and the first two TMNT movies certainly do that for me. But there are also so many reasons why I still love these films to this day. I believe that these are the two best Ninja Turtle movies ever made, and nothing will ever be able to recapture that type of magic in the franchise again. Now, I feel the other films in the franchise are fine for what they are. I don't have a big hate or love for any of them. I say, like whatever TMNT movie that means most to you. Now, just like I say in every one of these videos, what makes a favorite to someone can differ from person to person, so in this video I'll be looking into my own personal reasons why TMNT 1990 is my favorite movie in the franchise. So let's get this thing started. Out of the three original movies, TMNT 1990 is the closest to being like the animated series and the comic books. It has the lighthearted comedy that the cartoon series had.
You don't have a clue.
And the darker elements of the comic book, which it mostly leaned towards. So whether you were a fan of just the comics or just the animated series, or maybe a fan of both, there was something in the movie for you. Me personally, I believe that to make the all-around perfect TMNT film, you just need both, and none of the other Turtle movies have been able to capture the lighthearted comedy and the darker elements of the franchise better than the original film.
Wheel of Fortune, dude!
I enjoy the whole concept of this. I think when Eastman and Laird came up with this, it's such a nutty thing.
Master creative genius Jim Henson was the man who created the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles suit, and that is still the most exciting fact of the film to me, even to this day. I mean, he is my favorite creator of all time, and he also created my favorite show of all time, Fraggle Rock, with Jerry Joel, of course. I love the show so much that I named my dog Gobo, so you can only imagine how much this fact means to me. So yeah, it's my favorite creator of all time with my favorite childhood franchise. I mean, it doesn't get much better than that. Of course, Jim Henson had already done amazing work in animatronics, but nothing quite up to this level. The Henson Creature Shop definitely had their work cut out for them, but who else could have done it? Well, no one. Jim Henson was the only man who could have pulled it off at that quality. It was truly groundbreaking work, so much so that it gave the Creature Shop confidence to make the dinosaur show after Jim's passing. So yeah, if there was no TMNT 1990, there might not have been a dinosaur series, which would have been sad. I think the Teenage Mutant Ninja Cavemen was their way to show their gratitude towards the franchise. Still to this day, in 2025, I would take these Jim Henson made rubber TMNT suits over CGI ones. The feeling of something actually being on camera is different than the feeling you get when it's computer graphics.
It's a Kodak moment.
Can you imagine wearing 70-pound rubber suits and pulling off impressive choreographed fighting moves? 'Cause that's exactly what these performers did. They reportedly lost 5 pounds per day, and I'm sure the amount of sweat was crazy. I find this to be fascinating. I don't get easily awed by someone sitting behind a computer making CGI, but when I hear something like this, I think, wow, that's crazy and amazing. I mean, come on, that's one of the most impressive things I've ever heard. Talk about suffering for your art. Now, I have a belief, And it may not be a common one, but it's my belief. And that is, the more you struggle and suffer doing any type of art, the better it is. And that's not to say that artistic things that come easily to the artist can't be good, because they certainly can. But I don't know. There's just something special that comes out when you're willing to suffer, sweating all over the place, losing 5 pounds a day, pulling off awesome fighting moves in a 70-pound suit. All because they want to be part of something great. Now to me, that's true heart and passion, which leads me to my next reason. Like Bob Seger once said, say I'm old-fashioned, say I'm over the hill, today's movies ain't got the same soul. Well, I believe he actually said music, but I think you get my point. One of my first loves as a child was plays, and not as an actor, but as a viewer. And it wasn't just the acting and writing, it was everything. The handmade backgrounds, the costumes, the makeup, all of it just appealed to me. And then, of course, there was my love for all things Jim Henson. From Sesame Street, The Muppets, The Labyrinth, to The Dark Crystal, it was all amazing creative fun. And it wasn't just Jim Henson movies that shaped my childhood. Films like The Never-Ending Story and The Little Monsters and so many other classics, way too many to mention, had a big impact on me. They all had one thing in common. They were all handmade films using puppets, costumes, makeup, stop motion, and amazing hand-built sets. Just the thought of movies being made that way makes me smile like a moron. And I'm not fully dismissing computer graphics as a tool. It can work very well. It's when it takes over the movie that I just don't like. I just prefer the old ways, and TMNT 1990 is one of the best ever made.
I am proud of you, my sons.
Cut!
Steve Barron is a big reason why TMNT 1990 is so good. He set out to make a comic book movie with this certain tone in mind, and he used Ghostbusters and Batman 89 as his inspiration. He also recognized that mixing the tones of the comic books and the animated series was the way to go. Even though TMNT 1990 has a similar tone to Ghostbusters and Batman 89, it still has its own gritty realism feel to it that is completely its own.
Splinter.
The film was on an independent label and only had a $13 million budget, which is very small compared to the $200 million comic book movies of today. I feel like a low-budget film like this just makes the director have to become more creative with the look and shots of the movie. Bigger budget doesn't always mean it's better for the film's outcome. As much as I love TMNT, The Secret of the Ooze, I still sometimes wish Steve Barron could have directed the entire original trilogy. Because I believe if he had, we would all be talking about how the TMNT trilogy is one of the greatest trilogies of all time, if not the best.
The Shredder.
My favorite Shredder in the movies is the one from TMNT 1990. I remember the first time I seen it. When he walked on the screen for the first time, I sat there with my mouth wide open and all. The way this leader of the Foot is portrayed is just darker and more mysterious than the other films. And hey, don't get me wrong, I love Super Shredder just as much as anyone.
It's a super shredder!
But when you have this, and this,
Get off me!
it starts to lean a little bit more towards the Shredder the animated series, where the villain is no longer scary, but more on the comical side. And believe me, I like the Shredder from the animated series, but I don't really want him to be that kind of funny, bumbling bad guy who always fails in a live-action movie. And I think they felt the same way when they approached making TMNT 1990. They knew Shredder was one element of the film that should not be influenced by the cartoon, but more by the comics. He just wouldn't seem as much of a threat that way, so thank goodness they decided to go the more serious, menacing crime lord way for TMNT 1990.
What are these freaks?
Class is paying 101. Your instructor's Casey Jones.
Casey Jones and April O'Neil in TMNT 1990 is my favorite versions of the character in any TMNT movie. First, let's start with Casey Jones, played by Elias Koteas, who does a fantastic job, and I can't picture anyone else playing the character, and every time I do, I say, wait, That's not Casey Jones. This is Casey Jones.
Oh, you guys mind telling me what you're doing with my little green pal over there?
The character is portrayed by the actor a lot differently than the original animated series, where Casey Jones is more of an overtop, unhinged crime fighter with an obsessive hatred for criminals. He's more of an ally in the film rather than being a very small side character, and I'm glad they went that route. I would not have liked seeing him run around the movie like a complete lunatic. I mean, it works great in the animated series, and that's where it should stay. We also get to see him start a romance of sorts with April, which I actually like, and that could have never happened if he was like he is in the cartoon. The character also has some great lines and fighting scenes throughout the movie. This is just the best version of Casey Jones all around. Period.
It's a talent.
And now for April O'Neil, played by Judith Hoag, who does a fantastic job in the role and brings a more realistic maturity to the character that fits the gritty atmosphere of the film perfectly. Now, while preparing for the role, she did have some assistance by Robin Williams. Yeah, that's right, I said Robin Williams, who was a big fan of TMNT. Now, how cool is that? Well, to me, it's freaking awesome.
It's okay. Oh, no, I'm dreaming. I must be dreaming.
Raphael.
Raphael is and will always be my favorite Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle, and as much as I love him in the animated series, my favorite version of the character has always been from this movie. As a child, this was my favorite toy of all time, because he was the movie star Raph. I loved this thing because he was the one from the movies. I felt that was so cool. So yeah, anyways, whether you are a Raphael fan or not, I get it. I know, he can be well, you know.
Well, you act like a jerk sometimes, you know that?
There's just no real denying that Raphael's the lead of the movie, even if he is knocked out for a small part of it. Even Richard Usher from Partners in Crime, having no previous knowledge of TMNT, mistaken Raphael as the leader of the group in his song, Turtle Power. Simply because the summary of the film he received was mainly about Raphael. At least that's the way he's seen it. Now, if you believe that Raphael's not the lead in the movie, then screw you. Gotcha, didn't I? It's cool. Everyone thinks differently, and that's totally awesome. The way I see it is Raphael's the one who brings April into the turtle's lair, and he's also the one who first meets Casey Jones. Not only that, he's also the only turtle in the movie that has a heartfelt one-on-one moment with Splinter, which just happens to be one of my favorite parts in the movie. I can feel the emotions of the character in this scene so heavily, yet it's a performer in a rubber suit. That just amazes me.
But more remains. Anger clouds the mind.
Raphael also gets the biggest character arc throughout the movie, which, come on, the lead is usually the one who gets the biggest character arcs. And I'm not dismissing how great the other turtles are in the film, because they all are really good, and I like them a lot. Everyone has their favorite turtle, and that's probably going to be your favorite in the movie. Mine just happens to be Raphael.
Oh, no more?
The rooftop battle scene between the turtles and Shredder has always been my favorite part of the film. It's the moment you waited for throughout the whole movie, the showdown between the heroes and the main villain, and it does not disappoint. We also get the best line from Splinter in the film, which I've walked around quoting hundreds of times in my life.
For when you die, it will be without honor.
And this is also where we get the one and only cowabunga in the movie, which is said and suggested that the turtles say it by Splinter, who afterwards says, "I made a funny," followed by a hearty laugh. It's classic.
Huh?
By the time the first TMNT movie had hit the theaters, Turtle Mania was already among us. From the comic books to the cartoons to the merchandise, these four mutant ninjas had already won the hearts of millions. Being a child in the middle of this craze was something special. It's something you had to experience to truly understand how big they were at the time. This all adds to the hype and excitement in watching the film, and when looking back at Turtle Mania, it makes me filled with nostalgia. Wishing I could go back to Turtle Mania, even if it was just for an hour and 35 minutes to be able to experience watching this movie in the middle of Turtle Mania once again. Now that would be awesome, but unfortunately that's not possible, but that's okay. Every time I watch TMNT 1990, in my mind I've been transported back to Turtle Mania in the early 90s. Well, these are my reasons for loving this movie so much. With me, it could be a part, a fact, a laugh, a song, or many other reasons a film could be at the top. Your favorite TMNT movie may differ than mine, and that's totally awesome. Everyone should like what they connected with or enjoyed the most. There is no right or wrong answers.
Yeah, Leo, I'm crazy, okay? A loony, okay?
Why?